The man everyone ignored. Fritz Honka never looked like a threat. Small, disheveled, visibly damaged by years of alcohol abuse, he moved through Hamburg unnoticed. People saw him every day, but no one really looked at him. He was not feared, not respected, and not taken seriously. He was simply there. Hamburg in the 1970s. The city was divided between prosperity and decay. While some districts modernized and thrived, others were left behind. Red light areas, cheap bars, and rundown apartments formed a parallel world where people survived day to day without stability or protection. A city that looked away. In these forgotten neighborhoods, people disappeared quietly. Addiction was normal. Poverty was expected. Violence was not shocking enough to demand attention. When someone vanished, explanations were assumed rather than investigated. A life shaped by failure. Honka's life was defined by rejection. He failed at school, failed at work, and failed at relationships. His physical appearance and speech isolated him further. Over time, frustration turned into resentment, and resentment turned inward. Alcohol as escape and fuel. Drinking was not occasional for Honka. It was constant. Alcohol dulled shame, anger, and loneliness, but it also removed restraint. Arguments escalated quickly. Emotions spilled into violence without warning. The Golden Glove. The bar known as the Golden Glove became Honka's anchor, a place filled with people society had already abandoned. Elderly alcoholics, lonely women, and drifting figures passed through without leaving traces. For Honka, it was where he felt less alone. Targeting the invisible. Honka did not hunt powerful or protected people. He targeted those who were already ignored. Women living on the margins, struggling with addiction, isolation, or homelessness. Their absence would not create urgency. Control through proximity. Honka sought control not through intelligence or planning, but through proximity. Alcohol lowered defenses. Familiarity replaced caution. In private spaces, arguments turned physical, and physical dominance became the goal. The apartment on Zeitstrasse. Honka lived in a small apartment that reflected his inner state. Dirty, cluttered, and neglected. Neighbors complained about the smell, but complaints were common in the building, and rarely taken seriously. Warnings that blended into noise. The odor from the apartment was unusual, but not unique. Police visits were brief. Explanations were accepted. In an environment already associated with decay, warning signs blended into background noise. Escalation without interruption. Violence escalated over time without interruption. There was no single moment where everything changed. Instead, boundaries eroded gradually. What shocked at first became routine. Disappearances without reports. Many of the women Honka encountered had limited social connections. When they disappeared, reports were delayed or never filed. Some were assumed to have moved on. Others were simply forgotten. Societal blind spots. This was not invisibility by chance. It was invisibility created by social neglect. People on the margins are easier to erase because fewer people are watching. The role of environment. Honka did not operate in isolation. He operated within an environment that tolerated decay, where intervention was minimal and accountability weak. The setting did not create violence, but it allowed it to persist. Patterns no one connected. Incidents occurred over time, but they were never connected into a pattern. Each disappearance was treated as isolated. No larger narrative was formed. A man blending into ruin. Honka's appearance mirrored his surroundings. Broken, chaotic, and ignored. He did not stand out. He blended perfectly into a place where nothing was expected to improve. The smell that could not be ignored. Eventually, the odor from the apartment became impossible to dismiss. Complaints escalated. Authorities returned, not out of suspicion of violence, but because the situation had become unbearable. The discovery begins. When police entered the apartment, they were unprepared for what they found. What had been dismissed as neglect revealed something far darker beneath the surface. Shock without denial. Honka did not resist arrest. He did not attempt to create an alternative story. There was no dramatic confrontation. The truth emerged not through confession, but through evidence. A city forced to look. The discovery forced Hamburg to confront what it had ignored. Media attention followed. Public outrage grew. Questions turned toward how this could happen unnoticed. The cost of indifference. This case exposed the price of societal neglect. Violence did not hide behind intelligence or planning. It hid behind indifference. The full extent revealed. As investigators searched the apartment, it became clear that this was not a single incident. Evidence pointed to repeated violence over an extended period of time. What initially appeared as extreme neglect revealed a pattern that could no longer be denied. A crime scene in plain sight. The apartment had been part of the neighborhood for years. People walked past it daily. Neighbors lived next door. Complaints had been made. Visits had occurred. And yet, the reality inside had remained hidden behind assumptions and fatigue. Honka's behavior after arrest. Honka showed little emotional reaction. He did not attempt to portray himself as innocent, nor did he express visible remorse. His demeanor reflected emotional detachment rather than calculation. There was no grand narrative, only fragmented explanations. Alcohol and memory. During questioning, Honka frequently blamed alcohol for gaps in memory. Investigators noted that intoxication had played a role, but it did not explain the consistency of the behavior. Alcohol lowered barriers, but the violence followed familiar patterns. A history that made sense too late. As Honka's background was examined, a life of instability emerged. Medical records, employment failures, and social isolation painted a picture that now seemed obvious in hindsight. Warning signs had existed, but they were never connected. The role of social services. Authorities reviewed whether intervention had been possible earlier. Honka had interacted with social systems before, but his case never reached a level that triggered sustained support. He remained just below the threshold that demands action. When negligence becomes dangerous. The case raised uncomfortable questions. At what point does neglect enable violence? How many warning signs must be ignored before responsibility becomes shared? These questions extended beyond Honka himself. The media response. Coverage focused on shock and disgust. Images of the apartment became symbols of horror. But media attention also highlighted the broader environment that allowed the crimes to continue unnoticed. Public outrage and self-reflection. The public reaction was not limited to anger toward Honka. There was anger toward institutions, neighbors, and society as a whole. Many asked how something so extreme could exist without intervention. The trial. In court, the focus was on establishing responsibility and understanding motive. Honka was found fully accountable for his actions. The court acknowledged alcohol abuse but rejected it as an excuse. Sentencing and consequences. Honka received a life sentence. The ruling emphasized the severity of the crimes and the prolonged nature of the violence. Justice, while necessary, arrived only after irreversible harm. A city changed by the case. Hamburg was forced to confront its blind spots. Discussions followed about policing, social outreach, and the treatment of vulnerable populations. The case became a reference point for systemic failure. The invisible made visible. One of the most disturbing aspects was how easily people on the margins disappear. The victims were not invisible by nature. They were made invisible by neglect. Lessons that resonate. This case demonstrated that danger does not always announce itself. Sometimes it lives quietly in familiar places, protected by indifference and routine. Why this story endures. Fritz Honka's crimes are remembered not only for their brutality, but for what they reveal about society. Violence thrives where accountability fades. Final thoughts. Honka did not hide behind intelligence or manipulation. He hid behind neglect, behind lowered expectations, behind a world that looked away. The lasting question is not only how he committed these crimes, but how long it took for anyone to truly see them.